Great to be here today. Always wonderful to be at JP Morgan to start the year and give all of you an update on where Novartis is and where we're going. And what I'd like to do is give you an overview of a little bit of our journey over the last few years, and then talk about the future, and I think pretty exciting prospects for us as a company. Now, when you look at our overall profile, in summary, we think we've come to a place where we really present investors an attractive story, a focused strategy with five core platforms, four core TAs, strong capital allocation approach. We highlighted at our recent R&D Day a commitment to grow 5% through 2027, as well as 40% plus margins, really putting us at the top end of the peer set. A robust pipeline with 10 phase 3 positive readouts in 2023, and we'll go through that, as well as 83 projects in the pipeline. We've slimmed down the pipeline, but we think the pipeline now is really filled with attractive assets. And then a leader in ESG. We're a leader in many of the key indices, and we take it seriously to continue to do the right things to contribute to society. Now, when you look at Novartis over the last decade, we've really now completed what was a substantial transformation of the company. In 2014, we were a diversified healthcare group spanning a large number of sectors, and progressively, with the exit of consumer health, the exit of Alcon, the exit of Sandoz, each as now independent companies with attractive spins to shareholders that were tax neutral, we end up as a focused medicines company today entering 2024. And when you look at that transformation and how it's impacted our financial profile, our margins have substantially improved to now 37%, marching up to that 40%, as well as you just look at the free cash flow generation of our business, now at $11 billion through 3 quarters, and we expect a strong quarter 4 as well, 32.4% of sales now getting into free cash flow. So it really shows that we are doing the right things that not only improve the strategy of the company, but also the financial return profile of the company. And when you look at our financial performance over the last 5 years, in spite of LOEs, in spite of challenges, we've grown sales at 7% on our innovative medicines business. We've grown our core OpInc at 14% on that IM business, and that, as I've mentioned, that core margin up 790 basis points. So showing that we can deliver that steady financial performance consistently over time now since 2018. Now, as we look ahead, we remain very committed to our focused strategy, which we outlined really 2 years ago, along therapeutic areas, platforms, 4 priority geographies with a big goal to raise our presence in the U.S., of course, delivering returns and being a leader on foundations and continuing to be strong on operational excellence. We continue a big commitment to culture. We continue to believe culture drives performance in the long run, and I think we're seeing that now start to come through in the operating performance of Novartis. And we also stay consistent with our approach to capital allocation with a balanced approach, investing in the business. We fully invest in R&D as well as our manufacturing and other capital needs, and continue to do value-creating bolt-ons, about $33 billion now over the last 5 years, while consistently growing our dividend in Swiss francs, independent of the various spins that we've made. We've committed to continue to grow that dividend, and a consistent approach to share buybacks. We have a $15 billion share buyback now ongoing, following the past $15 billion share buyback we recently completed. And we've already talked about the exits that we've done in a shareholder-friendly way. We've also been active on the BD&L and M&A front, and I wanted to highlight some of the deals we announced this morning. Over the course of the last year, we did about 15 strategic deals totaling around $600 billion. A few we announced this morning: Argo Biopharma, a partnership with a siRNA company where we've now brought in 3 different assets that we have either options or will be licensing and developing within cardiovascular disease. We recently announced the partnership with CKD with an HDAC6 inhibitor and atrial fibrillation. This morning, we announced the acquisition of Calypso Bio with an anti-IL-15 in immunology, so very excited about bringing that into our immunology portfolio. We also announced our partnership with Isomorphic Labs on the AI front. That's a Google DeepMind company working on developing novel, using AI to prosecute drug development targets. So a broad range of deals, and we'll continue to really look at those deals in that sub-$2 billion, sub-$1 billion space to continue to build out the portfolio. Now, turning to our growth profile, we outlined at our recent R&D day our belief that we can grow at 5%. That's an upgrade from the 4% previous CAGR from 2022 to 2027, 40% plus margin. That's driven by primarily the growth drivers and the pipeline outpacing the LOEs that we have with Entresto, Tasigna, and Promacta. And I want to get into a little bit more detail as well on those individual peak sales for some of those assets. And then when you look at the longer term, we believe we have the pipeline and portfolio to grow 5% to 27 and then mid-single digit beyond. Broad range of de-risked in-market brands that you can see listed here. A number of pipeline assets. As I mentioned, I'm going to walk through the 10 positive readouts. Just this morning, we announced Scemblix, one in the frontline setting, hitting all primary and secondary endpoints against standard of care, choice of TKI, Gleevec, or second-generation TKI, showing again the kind of assets that we're able to bring forward out of our portfolio. So turning into our in-market brands, we outlined at the recent investor meeting our peak sales in each one of these inline assets, upgrading particularly the guidance on Entresto now to $7 billion of peak sales, maintaining our Cosentyx at $7 billion, upgrading Kesimpta with a belief that medicine can now get to $4 billion plus. Kisqali solely in the metastatic setting, not in the adjuvant setting. We'll get to that on the next slide. $4 billion. And then Pluvicto now as part of our radioligand therapy platform, multi-billion-dollar potential. And of course, Leqvio, our siRNA in cardiovascular disease, also with a multi-billion-dollar peak sales potential. And I think what's really exciting about our portfolio is that many of these assets have now a next leg coming up with the recent data readouts. When you look at Cosentyx, that's $7 billion, but we continue to have, I think, some pretty exciting recent launches. With Cosentyx, we launched Cosentyx IV, which is off to a very strong start in the United States. We also had the approval of Cosentyx in hidradenitis suppurativa, which gives us another exciting indication to move forward in dermatology. With Kisqali, we had the positive readout of the adjuvant indication, and I'll talk more about that. Pluvicto with multiple opportunities to move into earlier lines of therapy to add another multi-billion dollars on top of the multi-billions we've already guided to. And of course, Leqvio with its outcome studies, as well as moving Leqvio into the frontline setting as well, it gives an opportunity to drive stronger growth. So taken together, when you look at our strategy from a therapeutic area standpoint, we've defined specific diseases that we want to win in. And these are diseases that we manage centrally now at the company, aligned in R&D through commercial. And we, of course, constantly are thinking about which diseases we need to add or exit. We have anchor brands in each one of those therapeutic areas, which give us strong commercial, medical affairs, and development presence in those TAs. And then we have multiple assets in those TAs that we can bring forward and continue to leverage that global commercial R&D and medical affairs infrastructure. So now I want to turn to what I think was a banner year for Novartis in R&D. Over the course of the year, we had 10 positive phase 3 readouts or data presentations on assets with significant potential. These are all assets now that are either recently approved or in the process of getting filed over the course of this year, and we think can give more confidence not only in that 5% out to 27, but our belief will grow mid-single digits into the 2030s. I won't get into some of the earlier mid-stage pipeline and emerging phase 3 that would read out in the 25-26 timeframe. I think it's a great opportunity to review for all of you kind of these core assets. So starting with Kisqali, at ASCO, we showed the phase 3 NATALEE study, which demonstrated consistent benefit, and then we updated that at San Antonio Breast, showing that breast cancer, showing that we had consistent improvements in IDFS in both stage 2 and stage 3 with a positive trend in OS. I can say now today we have completed the filing of Kisqali in the US, following the file in EMA with a priority review voucher. We would expect to be able to bring this forward in the course of 2024. Again, a very strong profile overall, no new safety signals, a compelling profile that allows this medicine, we believe, to be used not only in high risk, like the currently approved therapy, but also in intermediate risk. I would say that Kisqali is doing extremely well in the metastatic setting right now. We are leading an NBRX share in the US, with a steady progress in TRX as well. And then we also see in multiple markets outside the United States, Kisqali getting to the point in the metastatic setting to being the market leader. On Pluvicto, we read out the PSMA-4 study, which showed robust efficacy, great safety and efficacy profile overall. We nearly doubled or doubled median rPFS, very consistent benefit, whether it's in patient benefit with time to worsening, the FACT-P, or the BPI-SF. Overall, I think a really nice trial to support the broadened use of Pluvicto. We will be working now to get to the next information fraction cutoff of 75% events in the early part of this year, which we hope will then allow us to move forward with the filing with FDA. As a reminder, this is a study with really high rates of crossover, over 80%. And part of that is because the medicine is doing so well right now in its current line post-chemo in the US and in Europe. So we guided to roughly $1 billion of sales in 23, and we expect that March in its current indication to continue forward. On Friday, we announced that Pluvicto new manufacturing site in Indianapolis is approved, giving us yet another large-scale manufacturing site. It's our largest in the world, and that allows now for radioligand therapy. We are fully supply unconstrained, both for Lutathera, Pluvicto, and our pipeline. Now moving to Fabhalta, this is iptacopan, our factor B inhibitor, which showed outstanding data in the APPLY and APPOINT studies for efficacy and safety in PNH. We received approval in December for Fabhalta in the US with a very attractive label, which allows us to be both frontline, add-on, or salvage therapy for these patients, and now are in the active approach of launching this medicine in the US with plans then ultimately bring it around the world. Very excited about this data, and I think it demonstrates that we can raise the standard of care for diseases that, like PNH, with an oral therapy twice a day with an attractive profile. Iptacopan then demonstrated later on last year positive data in the C3G trial, a rare kidney disease, but again demonstrating that it had a clinically meaningful and statistically significant impact on proteinuria reduction in this patient population. Again, a very good safety profile consistent with what we saw in the PNH setting. We'll be presenting this data later this year, but this will be the next leg for iptacopan to continue to expand across a broad range of indications. We have ongoing studies with iptacopan and other indications such as membranous glomerulonephritis, as well as atypical hemolytic uremic syndrome, amongst others. But importantly, with iptacopan, we also read out positively in IgAN, which gave us a third positive readout on this medicine in a single year. Now, we have two assets with positive readouts in IgAN over the course of 2023, both iptacopan and atrasentan read out positive. We're now in the process of filing both of these medicines in the US and then eventually around the world. And this allows us to really build out a next leg in our cardiorenal portfolio, having multiple assets with iptacopan, with atrasentan to give patients with kidney diseases the next better therapies that they, of course, all need to avoid transplant and some of the other adverse consequences of renal disease. And then in the mid-stage pipeline, we continue on our phase 3 study of zigakibart, which is a monoclonal antibody that we're currently evaluating, and that would give us yet another asset within the IgAN portfolio. We also read out positive data on remibrutinib. This is our BTK inhibitor in the REMIX-1 and REMIX-2 studies in chronic spontaneous urticaria. Here, the data demonstrated, we would argue, near biologic-like efficacy with a very good safety profile without any signals within a liver disease, with liver signals of any concern. This gives us the opportunity to not only move forward with a submission in 2024 with remibrutinib, but also to take remibrutinib now into a further range of immunology indications. While we do have the multiple sclerosis studies ongoing as well, we see the opportunity to expand this medicine in multiple immunology indications, given its strong safety profile as well as high efficacy. So we're very excited to provide updates on those phase 3 starts as we make them over the course of 2024. Next, turning to our radioligand therapy pipeline. This one was a little bit under the radar, but something we're quite excited about. Lutathera read out positive in its phase 3 NETTER-2 study. This is in the frontline setting in combination with high-dose Sandostatin, gives us the opportunity to take this medicine, which is already a $500 million plus medicine in later line therapy of neuroendocrine tumors, and move it into the frontline setting. What's exciting about this, in the U.S., we already have a broad label that allows us for the medicine to be used in that frontline setting. We just didn't have the data yet. So this is a medicine that met its primary endpoints. We'll be presenting this data at one of the ASCO satellite meetings in the first quarter of this year, so at ASCO GU. And we believe this gives us an opportunity now to have, given our long history of Sandostatin LAR in the frontline setting, a next wave medicine that redefines the standard of care for these patients and gives us a next leg of growth within radioligand therapies and within that whole treatment of neuroendocrine tumors. This is also a medicine now we're taking forward in small cell lung cancer in combination with PD-1 inhibitors. And we also have ongoing studies in glioblastoma multiforme to give us a kind of next leg, next to Pluvicto for radioligand therapy. One of the things we did highlight in our R&D day was a very strong portfolio of RLTs behind these two frontline medicines. And let me turn to Scemblix. So this morning, in this slide we just updated right before my presentation, we announced that in the Ask for First study, Scemblix hit its primary and secondary endpoints, clinically meaningful and statistically significant improvements in MMR rate versus investigator choice TKIs, Gleevec, or second-gen TKIs. Favorable safety and tolerability profile. I mean, from our perspective as the company that brought Gleevec to the world in 2001 and redefined the opportunity to treat patients with targeted therapies in cancer, then bringing forward Tasigna to now once again raise the standard of care in the frontline setting with an oral medicine, I think is one of the triumphs of Novartis scientists and Novartis chemistry. So we're very excited about this data. This will build on our third line data, ongoing phase 4 studies in the second line, both mono and in combination, and now in the frontline setting. We think what makes this medicine special is not only high efficacy, but a very strong safety profile. So this is obviously data we'll be presenting later this year at an upcoming medical congress with a submission planned in 2024 and a significant medicine, we think, now for Novartis. So taken together, we expect 15 key submissions in our core therapeutic areas by 2027. You can see here the full range. I talked about many of them. One of the ones I didn't talk about but we're excited about is ianalumab, which is a CD40 ligand, BAFF receptor CD40 ligand inhibitor. So we think pretty exciting medicine as well within our immunology portfolio, amongst others. I did want to say a word on our next wave platforms that we think can drive our long-term growth. And you see a lot of BD&L activity from Novartis on this front. Radioligand therapies, we've talked about. CAR-T and immunology, you heard in the last presentation, but we also believe that we have a unique asset with our YTB medicine that has the opportunity to deliver significant clinical outcomes for patients with immunological disease. So we continue to expand out our clinical trials as well, and we think this will become a very significant space. We've already presented our first 3 patients in treating SLE at a congress last year and demonstrated, I think, very, very compelling results consistent with what the German investigators have found. And they, of course, are now at 18 months, 2 years, showing full remissions in these patients. And lastly, siRNAs, not only in cardiovascular disease, also in neuroscience. We did DTX earlier last year, and then I mentioned Argo Biopharma, giving us, I think, more and more assets within siRNA, ASOs, alongside our partnership with Ionis as well, giving us, I think, a pretty attractive early portfolio to use these medicines in treating neuroscience and cardiovascular disease. So in closing, I just wanted to also highlight our strong commitment within ESG. It's something we take seriously at the company. We've really repositioned Novartis as one of the leaders, both in terms of how we create value for society with the work we do, but also ensure whether it's in the environment, ethical standards, or other enablers, we're doing the right things for the world and how our company operates. And just to close with a story that I feel a lot of pride in as a public health physician leading an incredible company like Novartis, our commitment to malaria spans decades. We took Nobel Prize-winning work from a Chinese scientist and brought the world Coartem. We are now at over 1.2 billion courses of Coartem provided to patients around the globe at no profit to Novartis, including 400 million children. We've created formulations and new programs. We also have most of the malaria pipeline in the industry. And then we recently announced we'll be starting a study to be able to treat infants, newborn infants, for malaria with our medicines. I think this is the kind of work we want to do alongside the other work to demonstrate we're a company that really drives health improvements for the planet. So in closing, coming back to where I started, a focused strategy, clear and attractive growth prospects with assets that can drive that growth, a robust pipeline demonstrating that we have the R&D engine with 10 positive readouts in 2023, and an ESG leader doing the right things for the world. So look forward to taking your questions, meeting with many of you over the course of the day, and then keeping you updated on Novartis over the course of this year. So thank you all very much.